where everything is just like hyper technicality. No, don't wish the evil on my. Oh man. Holy shit.
Hey, Nino.
How you doing, Ventura?
How you doing? You doing okay?
No, I'm hating my life.
Oh. Anything
How's it
on
going?
a need-to-know basis?
I mean, I can tell you, y'all's fucking warrant got thrown out the fucking window because some dumb fucks thought that, you know, apparently it was a 2-to-1 vote, but the 1 won because it was a justice, because they don't know what the fuck a panel is. So let me ask you something, Ventura. You got a panel of 3 people, right, that make a decision. How do you think that's supposed to work?
Wait, repeat that?
There's a panel of 3 people, right?
Yeah.
There to make a decision. How do you suspect that panel should function?
I mean, the whole purpose of a odd number panel is that a majority would win.
You know what? You're hired.
I mean, isn't that why was there even a panel if the odd, the majority didn't win?
That's a great question.
Is it the Opal warrant? From what I heard, it was like just like a big word. It was like a wording thing that didn't really matter.
Oh man, I just had this conversation with Turner.
Argument or whatever.
The last sentence does matter because it's effectively an affidavit where that law enforcement officer is stating, based on all the evidence that came before it, this is my conclusion, and that conclusion infers that there was reasonable suspicion and not probable cause. However, given the fact that a justice signed it, they understood the meaning, etc., etc., it is what it is, and that it's overturning, while accurate, if they were signing it, is not appropriate for overturning it. Does that make sense? Because that overturning needs to have a significantly higher barrier, right?
Yeah, I guess the wording of didn't matter was wrong. I meant more so that it didn't invalidate the evidence that was presented. It was more so just a clerical thing, like, you know,
it's not clerical. Think about it this way.
Word too, but.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. Imagine, who's this cop on the right?
Sergeant Pinzone.
Sergeant Pinzone.
Oh shit! Jesus fucking Christ! What, did they promise you a heavy rifle? Is that why you're around?
No, I actually am allowed to carry one just out in the open.
Oh, just conveniently. That's why. Okay. All right.
And anyways, I have a heavy pistol.
He didn't know that till today when I told him.
I
did not know that till today, but I heard heavy pistols are back, and you know, back in my day, 10 years ago, that was the shit.
I understand.
Yeah, I think this whole warrant being thrown out left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and PD it sets I hate the argument of like things like this doesn't set precedent, because it inherently does to some extent.
It does.
Maybe not,
100%.
I guess set in stone, but
the precedent is no one's going to write any warrants and no one's going to investigate, and then everyone's just going to keep doing more degenerate shit like fucking shootouts and bank trucks, and then everyone's going to be like, why do cops just like fucking do gang shit? It's because the DOJ is not creating a environment where it's worth doing anything else, because at least a shootout, it's pretty fucking obvious what happened, right?
Sure.
So we are going to work on a resolution. I mean, at the end of it, we are preparing a complete rewrite of the search and seizure shit, where in there are standards legislatively defined. So that does mean a higher standard for the PD. In other words, your conclusion is going to be important, but equally it's going to set a standard for what does it mean to overturn, right? And overturning is not
and shit like that.
Well, I would agree with that, but a overturning shouldn't be. If I present evidence, right? If I put, let's say I put a bag of sugar, right, on the dashboard here, and you don't know what it is. Let's say you know what it is. You know it's coke. You know it's not cocaine, right?
Right, I know or I don't know.
You don't. You know it's sugar. Sorry. You put a lot of sugar in your coffee. You've seen cocaine before. You know, looking at it, that's not cocaine. But Pinzone over here believes it's cocaine because maybe hasn't experienced it as much, right? He then proceeds to get me, and let's say you're not here, but you're observing, right? He tells me to step out of the vehicle, right? He looks at the bag. He puts it on the side. He hasn't opened it up yet. He searches the vehicle. He may have had reasonable suspicion. May have had probable cause that it was cocaine up until he tested it, right? But you don't. That's okay, right? However, it's like that. It's the same notion of like what the end of that warrant is, right? One officer can believe that a bunch of guns is probable cause that they've got more shit in it. Another one might not. But that's not enough to overturn. It's got to be a much higher legal standard. Otherwise, everything's going to get fucking overturned because judges don't agree to begin with.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully this, I mean, like I said, this sets a bad inherent precedent for PD and how people are going to react to this furthermore.
Well, it's a bad precedent for non-PD too.
I mean, I don't think the criminals are really upset about this shit getting overturned.
I disagree. Okay, in this case, sure. But because it's wavery, that also means bad warrants will get signed.
Fair. People, well, sure, inherently, so sure that they dodge the fine, but there's also the inconvenience and/or inherent punitive measure that comes with the raiding of their property and seizing whatever would be seized, regardless if they get charged of it or not in court through fines. They still lose some things. They otherwise wouldn't have.
I think like from
I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that's like a punitive to them, right? That's why they would not want a bad warrant.
I guess for me, it's more like you don't want to get into situations where one gang does get raided off some shit, and then another gang gets absolutely like one gang gets away with something, and then another gang gets completely fucked in the ass, even though the standard was the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why that standard's got to be consistent.
No, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, you got a point there.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound concerning.
Yeah.
I was just pulling you over because you coasted through some red lights. I was assuming it was just that your typical you just in your thoughts.
That's exactly it. I was just thinking about
really,
Turner and
didn't really know what the hell
I was
you
like,
were
fuck
doing.
the DOJ. On God, I hope they get the plague and die. Like, you know what I mean? Save everyone some fucking trouble.
Yeah, so just pulling you over to snap you back into reality a little bit. Make sure you don't coast. Oh, what's this?
Yeah. Hey, Penzone, I'll put one in my glove box if you want to grab it.
I'll give this a read a little bit after.
Yeah.
I just want to snap you back into reality. Make sure you're slowing down a little bit. Red lights. Don't want you to get T-boned.
All right.
Car going 190.
Appreciate that.
Don't want an ingot with an engine swap slamming you at 190 and taking you out.
Yeah, very true. There you go. There's one of those as well.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah, you're gonna be good to go, Nino.
Yep.
Go ahead. Take care of yourself.
Yep. Absolutely. Hey, if you have any questions about what's in the book, feel free to give me a call. And keep in mind that any reference to DOJ is actually more about the justices, as most of the judges and magistrates are down with what we're planning. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
You have a good one, Mr. Chavez.
Yep. You as well.